trans people are infiltrating your spaces. Trans people using the toilets is the issue here. Like, again, coming from America, you see the UK in such a forward-thinking way, and I feel like in the last 3-4 years, it's just gone completely backwards. Like, it's almost a joke.
And they're just playing on people's fear. People are scared for a lot of reasons at the moment, and I think the media are channeling that into one easy target rather than people standing up and looking at what's really going on in the world.
When the Napoleonic Wars began, the various heads of state did not realise it, but they inadvertently sparked Brighton's sexual revolution. The barracks in Brighton meant a lot of troops were stationed here, and it's during this time that there was the first recorded evidence of the soldiers hooking up. From then on, Brighton became well known as a place where people could come to explore their sexualities and identities safely and discreetly.
Brighton's queer community has flourished, with roughly 1 in 10 Brightonians describing themselves as gay, lesbian or bisexual. That makes Brighton the gayest city in the country. People are able to live their lives authentically in a way that would have been unimaginable to the soldiers who were secretly shagging underneath the pier.
Despite all this progress, homophobia and transphobia hasn't gone away. The rate of hate crimes based on sexual orientation has risen by 112% in the last 5 years. And the rate of transphobic attacks has risen by 186% in the same time frame.
And what do the people in charge do? Do they stand in solidarity with the tiny minority that are vilified on television, in the newspapers, on the radio? No. They crack jokes about trans women at the dispatch box.
I wanted to know how those at the brunt of these issues feel about it. That's why I'm in Brighton.
Well, little known fact, I do have the Saltburn grave scene tattooed on my leg. It's probably the third most shocking scene in the Saltburn film, where Barry Keoghan shags a grave.
What is it about that appealed to you?
I am just a massive goth and also a really big Hosier fan.
I'm Greenbeard. Everyone knows me as Greenbeard round town.
Why do they call you Greenbeard?
Pretty obvious.
Why did you come to Brighton?
Came for a man, left for a woman.
We're a very small city. We're only about 300,000 people, but we have a very visible LGBT plus community. And it just means that there's a sense of identity in this city that perhaps there isn't in some others.
For example, if I was by myself in Dublin, I don't think I'd dress outlandishly, to be honest, because you'd be scared because there's too many stories coming out lately of hate crimes going on and stuff like that.
Well, I've got a female couple friend who they moved down from Liverpool, and they suffered such abuse being openly gay in Liverpool, and here they've just found their home.
I think it's so nice to not question it. I mean, when you come here and people that are, expressing themselves, that's what Brighton's about. I think it really is. It's that nature. It's expressing yourselves. I mean, even, you can wear what you like, you can do what you like, and you can be who you are. And I think that's a really big part of Brighton. I think that's why I think people have a sort of a slight comfort to it. I think that's what makes it, such a nice place to be. Yeah.
So being able to just exist in Brighton and be queer and have self-expression is insane, and you just feel so safe. It is a lovely little bubble. I grew up in a really, really small, very rural, racist, awful town, and I was banned from people's homes. I wasn't allowed to see my friends, and being here is just so welcoming, and queer joy exists.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, that's dreadful.
That's okay. It's part of the experience, isn't it? Unfortunately.
It shouldn't be.
You know all about this. You know how it is with Islam and all of this LGBTQ community. My personal belief is, and our beliefs in Islam is, you do what you do right, and other people do what they have to do. And the thing is, even if you're Muslim, if you're gay, if you're Christian, whatever it is, I don't think it's the best way to force people to celebrate you. I think it's your right for them to tolerate your differences and tolerate who you are, but I don't think it's obligatory for you to celebrate. I think celebrating is different than tolerating them.
Someone we spoke to earlier was lamenting them having, they said they were saying they shouldn't have to celebrate the queer community. They felt obliged to, they felt they were put into that situation. They said people can do what they want, but I shouldn't have to celebrate you. What do you think? What do you make of that sentiment?
It's fine.
Yeah, I mean,
no one has to celebrate as long as you're not, doing the opposite and
exactly
hating from the sidelines.
Yeah.
A colleague of mine, he stood up and he kept shouting, all of you men, you all think about fucking, you all think about this. And then I told her, we can all shout, but I'm not gonna shout. If you wanna have like a debate, let's debate. 10 minutes passed by, another colleague of mine in class, and she shouted, kill all men. So I think like it's acceptable for them to say kill all men. And if anyone says anything, like for instance about the Jews or transgenders or gay people, I'm gonna be deported from the country. So I myself as an Arab, I think I compromise much more to fit in here than they do to compromise to fit here. So the thing is, why is it easy for me?
Brighton Pride was fabulous, but that's changed big time.
Really? Why?
All the corporate businesses are taking over all the floats and lots of straights. Nothing wrong with straights, obviously.
A lot of people assume that we have everything we want. You know, we have equality in marriage and age of consent and things like that. But it's still important that we retain our identity, particularly as other groups push their identities forward more and more. Sometimes it's particularly like gay men are sort of sidelined a little bit, perhaps.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
I think that we have to be careful that everybody is always included and that we don't get too pushing one group over another, you know, so that everybody is inclusive, you know.
Is that amongst like the LGBT community? Is that what?
Yeah, I particularly mean that, yeah. You know, there's not infighting, but there's a lot of, you know, heated discussion on some subjects, so yeah.
Yeah, I think for young people it's kind of getting more and more untenable in terms of just sort of surviving. I mean, financially it's, I don't know, it's kind of getting horrendous. It's kind of a bit of a joke, really. You know, we're paying so much money as tax. You know, I live alone. I pay $1,200 in rent on my own. I have a full-time job and a part-time job to survive. I've got 2 degrees, and I think for young people, everyone's becoming quite disillusioned with the fact that we all work our asses off and we've got nothing to show for it anymore. It's kind of the sad thing. You know, Brighton obviously is just as expensive as London because we don't get the London waiting. You know, a lot of us live kind of slightly, you know, paycheck to paycheck. I certainly do. It's halfway through the month and I've got like a £5 in my account. So it's sad for young people who are working their asses off, particularly people who have graduated from uni here and done all the degrees. And it's a shame. I think, I think Tory rule has got a lot to answer for, let's be honest.
Even if you're gay, if you're Christian, whatever you are, you should preach, but you shouldn't force other people to do anything. That's my main view.
What do you feel forced to do?
I don't feel forced to do anything, but like in uni, in my religious beliefs, I shouldn't be celebrating like others' differences. Some differences, I shouldn't celebrate them. I have to tolerate them. The religion tells me I have to tolerate them. I don't have to celebrate them. But I was told in uni I had to write I think it was a presentation, and I had to bring someone I think who was lesbian or who was transgender. I'm not supposed to be, in my religion, I'm not supposed to be speaking about this publicly. So that's why I was obligated to do it, and they told me to do it. I did not do it.
Okay. How do you make, I think in the UK, well, obviously in the US, but in the UK there's kind of a level of homophobia and especially transphobia that have like crept back in to mainstream society. What do you make of that? What do you make of that?
It's just so backwards. I don't understand. I feel like, again, coming from America, you see the UK in such a forward-thinking way, and I feel like in the last like 3-4 years, it's just gone completely backwards. Like it's almost a joke how backwards it's become. Like you used to think it's so accepting everywhere, and now it's like, oh, if you're a trans person, then you're not welcome, and they're actively making it harder for people to get gender-affirming surgeries and just become who they're meant to be. Like it makes me really mad.
Yeah, I mean, people think because it's Brighton that we don't have any problems like that, but we do. We have a lot. This shop itself was targeted a couple of years ago by a group, and thankfully that you know, we dealt with it with the help of the local police. But it is an issue. It is an issue in this street particularly.
I can't do it without swearing. It just makes me so mad what the media are doing. They're covering up all sorts of things that are going on and picking on trans people instead.
Why do you think that is?
I think they see trans people as an easy target. There is a right-wing mindset that are very set in their ways and believe what they're told, and so trans people for some reason have been painted as the enemy completely, and they're just playing on people's fear. People are scared for a lot of reasons at the moment, and I think the media are channeling that into one easy target rather than people standing up and looking at what's really going on in the world.
Why do you think politicians, I don't know, anybody uses kind of trans people as kind of a football or like a punch bag or a scapegoat almost? Why do you think that is?
I think cover-ups, isn't it?
Yeah.
For their own bullshit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they just kind of it's
easy target.
Easy target. That's what I'm trying to say. Like I feel like obviously trans people have always existed and queer people have always existed, but with the rise in society, in media, and we're getting a lot more coverage now, I feel like it's just an easy dig, really. Like it's something that they can attack, that they can put people's focus on rather than sort of to cover up their own
the bigger
corruption. Yeah. So rather than saying, you know, like, I don't know, they're funding, you know, like wars in Palestine and stuff like that, they'll go, oh no, instead of that, trans people are what's the word I'm looking for? Infiltrating your spaces. Trans people using the toilets is the issue here. Like
another issue with a lot of politicians being absolute paedophiles and then just pegging it all on trans females, for example.
Yeah.
Get a lot of the blame for that.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.